There you go, Steve.
Good
evening, everyone. Welcome to the Woodland Park City Council meeting, October 3rd, 2024. We had a work session at 5 p.m. and we finished early, so we had a nice break. So Susie, we'll call this to order, and if you would please do the roll call.
Certainly. Mayor Keys,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nakai,
Here.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Here.
Councilmember Gear,
Here.
Councilmember Harvey,
Here.
Councilmember Jones,
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. If everyone would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. That takes us to item 3A, ceremonies and presentations. And item A is presentation on upcoming tax question on the November 5th ballot for the UPass Regional Ambulance District. And we have the Chief Dienst. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Once again, my name is Tim Dienst. I'm the Chief of EMS at UPass Regional Health Service District, but tonight I'm representing Friends of EMS, which is our advocacy wing for this question. We're coming back this year with question 7A1, which is a 1 cent sales tax, because how many of you on council and even in the audience are aware that we lost our question last year? By about 711 votes is what we lost that election. So we're coming back, and we start off with this presentation, even with the picture of an inside of an ambulance. One of the hardest things for us to get through to our residents and folks is that an ambulance is more than just 2 people in a truck. It's a very sophisticated, very expensive piece of equipment. Next slide, please. But before I go too in depth in the presentation, a little bit about us. A lot of people don't, even though we've been around since 2005, a lot of people don't necessarily understand the significance and the magnitude of the area that we cover. So we try to provide 3 ambulances, 24/7, 365, 2 stationed out of Woodland Park and 1 stationed out of Florissant. With our call volume rising, we actually need 4, but instead of adding ambulances, we're actually cutting ambulances because of a severe staffing shortage that we're in right now. We also, because we have a fairly significant mobile crisis, mental health, and substance abuse problem, we've implemented what we call our MAP program, our mental health assistance program, where we're actually intervening with these folks. And instead of taking them via the most expensive means, an ambulance, to the most expensive place, a hospital emergency department, we're actually intervening with these folks, getting the help they need, referring them to resources, and not taking them to hospitals. We also are a community resource for CPR training, first aid classes, and the like. Our service area, even if you take a look at the map, we're a big area. Even if you think of it from the county line to the east, to the summit of Wilkerson Pass, and everything to the north, including 36 square miles into Douglas. So we are in Teller, Park, and Douglas counties. We also are the primary responder up to the Rampart Range area, Rampart Range Reservoir, because we're the closest EMS agency to that area. We do serve 5 different fire protection districts. Next slide, please. Just in case you're wondering, right now, we are funded by a 3.99 mill levy. It's probably one of the lowest, if not the lowest, mill levy in the county at the moment. We do have a 1 cent or half a cent sales tax that was passed in 2018. And believe it or not, even when we passed that tax, we thought about everything that we could think about. But what happened shortly after 2018 was the COVID pandemic, which changed a lot, especially regarding paramedics and EMTs leaving the field, which is what created the paramedic shortage out there. And a lot of the costs associated with the items that we buy went up significantly as well. We also do patient revenue from ambulance billing, but I'll get a little bit more into that in just a few moments. And actually, we do go for grants and contracts. Right now, we have a contract with the BHA, the Behavioral Health Administration, to fund a large portion of our MAT program. But as of June of 2025, the bulk of that funding will go away. We believe that we're going to run about 4,100 calls this year. Even when you think of this month so far, and it's only the third, we're up to call number 46. And so far today, we've run 17 calls. We've had 3 ambulances on calls at the same time, 5 times today. We've been down to what we call level 0 with no ambulances available twice today for a period of about 2 hours. And of all those calls today, only 4 of those were interfacility transports. I put up that, oh, and the 670 calls, if you think about 670 for our MAP program, for those who don't think that we have the behavioral health substance abuse problem in the county, that's how many times so far we've gone out since the end of last month. I put the 78% hospital Colorado Springs destinations on there because even though we do have a hospital up here, the acuity of the patients that we see, 78% of them still need to go down to Colorado Springs hospitals. And when you think about when we transport a patient to Colorado Springs from the time we start the call to the time we get back up here, that call is about 3 hours long. Oh, before I leave, that 52 and that it's supposed to be 240, looks like my slides got a little off in the movement. What is the significance of 52 and 240? 52 times so far, because of our staffing shortage, we've been down to minimum staffing and only deploying 2 ambulances instead of 3, and 242 times so far this year, we've been at what we call level 0, or not having any ambulances available at all. Next slide, please. So why is it so important? And it's really hard to take a complex issue and narrow it down to a little bit more than an elevator speech. But every second does count in an emergency. And our paramedics and EMTs are some of the best in the area and even in the state, and we provide outstanding care. But our equipment is aging. And for example, our cardiac monitors are what we call the LifePak 15s, and they are currently right around 17 years old, and all of them need to be replaced at the tune of about $50,000 apiece. The shrinking paramedic labor pool, we're having a hard time replacing the medics that we lost. And in June, we lost 7 medics looking for better wages, better job security, better benefits. I think that sounds familiar to some of you. So approving this sales tax will address a lot of these issues. Next slide, please. So how will, and it's funny how it's not showing up very well, how will some of the funds be used? The 1 cent sales tax? Well, it's going to be used to replace outdated equipment. And you notice I said vehicles instead of just ambulances. One of the primary programs that we had to suspend this year, which has turned out to be one of our biggest and most popular programs, was called our home program. Because we shouldn't be transporting all patients via the most expensive means to the most expensive place, we were actually going into people's homes with our community paramedics. We were doing evaluations on them. We were connecting these patients via telehealth with physicians. We were getting diagnoses. We were getting prescriptions written, and those patients weren't even leaving their home. Why is that important for you to understand? And even when we think about where we want to go in the future, every hour per ambulance, it costs us $175 per hour. The community paramedic program costs us $52. So if we can grow that program instead of just focusing on ambulances, that will save an awful lot for us in the future and for our residents in the future. Next slide, please. So the other thing is addressing the paramedic shortage in our crews. I told you we have some of the best paramedics and EMTs working for you right now. A bulk of this money will be used to keep your paramedics in your community working for you. It will also help provide training for them, additional training, to make certain that they're up on all the most recent medical protocols, treatment protocols, so the care you receive is the care you need. Next slide, please. So one of the big things that I like to point out is, and that was one of the reasons why we chose a sales tax instead of a property tax, is that 36% of consumption of ambulance service in your community are from people who don't even live here. Not only do they not live here, but they don't pay their ambulance bills either, probably because they're not connected to our community. Even though we send them to collections, we have not been successful in fully funding the services that we've provided them. So even if you think about it, non-district residents pay sales tax. If nothing else, if you've seen Walmart especially on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you know that a lot of revenue can be generated from these folks. Next slide, please. We're also trying to minimize the impact as much as we can on our residents, while at the same time maximizing the benefit. We will not include the sales tax on groceries. So people will not see a tax increase on their groceries or their prescription medications, which will ease the tax burden on our residents living on fixed incomes, our elderly residents. We didn't choose a sales tax partly because that would be really hard on our businesses and homeowners alike. And if we continue to receive some of the revenue from the non-district voters through sales tax, that will help fund the ambulance services in the long run. How much will it cost you? $1 for every $100 you spend. Now, one of our biggest, most significant givebacks to members of our community is through our district resident discount program. And that is, we will not balance bill our district residents after what insurance pays. And so we wanted to show an example based on the property tax revenue, because that's what it's tied to. It's tied to property tax revenue in that the residents' continued obligations to pay property tax to us can be considered in lieu of payment of their deductible and copays. So even if you take our 3.99 mill levy based on a $600,000 house, that would be about $93.37 in taxes. If you take that $873, that's the equivalent of 9 years of property taxes paid to the district in just one use. Next slide, please. So we send bills, theoretically, they send check. And I put this in the presentation because we have one of the worst payer mixes of most ambulance services in the state. And if you take a look at this slide, with the blue being Medicare, Medicare is our biggest payer, the biggest group that we send our ambulances bills to, and I'll tell you the significance of that in a few minutes. You can see the gray and the orange. The gray is the commercial insurance, and the Medicaid. You see both of those are right at each other. And the concerning trend for us is insurance is going down, Medicaid is going up, and even most troubling for us in the billing aspect is look what's happening so far this year to our uninsured populations, the ones who can't pay their ambulance bills at all. Next slide, please. So we've often been asked as well, you can just raise your rates, right? So even if you take a look at from 2008 so far through 2023, don't necessarily want to pay much attention to 2024 yet because we're not done with 2024. But you can see between a combination of increasing in our rates and increasing in volume, what we've billed versus what we've collected, there really is no significant difference in what we collect versus what we bill. Next slide, please. Here is the root of the problem with medical billing in the ambulance business. You can see right off the top that 83% of our ambulance bills go to Medicare, Medicaid, and private pay. So you can see so far through the end of last month, we've billed out $2.7 million. We have to write off 1.8 of that right off the top to what's called contractuals. Contractuals with Medicare and Medicaid, especially, and other payers such as the VA and TRICARE, they only pay a capitated rate, and you can't collect from the patients any more than that because it's illegal to do that. And even when you go across the board, so you see that a total of $3.3 million wrote off 1.9, that only makes the net theoretically that we can collect to be roughly 1.4. So far, we have brought in $909,000. We've sent off to collections about $474,000. And the reason why I say 474,000 is about 200 of that so far this year has been to the district resident discount, our give back. So you can see that the average ambulance bill going out the door, all payers combined, is $2,493, and our average payment, all payers combined, is $680. Next slide, please. So even when you think about how do we spend our money, and I'll tell you that this is a conversion to cash. Literally, money in, money out this year. So you can see, and I'll have to move over just a little bit here so I can see the numbers as well. The bulk of our revenue comes from taxes. If we didn't have tax revenue coming in to provide the major source of funding for this public good that cannot be excluded to anybody, we would be in big trouble. And you can see so far that we've budgeted from ambulance billing about $1.5 million. Talking to some of my colleagues, even in Colorado Springs from the private industry, there is nobody else who could come up and provide comparable service for the area that we cover for $1.5 million. People want to know if we go for grants and if we go for contract revenue. $1.4 million so far we've brought in grants and contract revenue. Problem with grants and contract revenue, I told you about the BHA contract. We're going to lose about 800,000 of that after July of next year. The other part of the grants is that other EMS agencies that are in the same boat that we are, we're competing for those same dollars, and they're going to become harder and harder to get. So even when you think of the administrative area, you can see the salaries there. That pays for me, my deputy chief, my office manager, my compliance officer, and my privacy officer, because you have to have both of those, especially if you're going to bill government payers such as Medicare and Medicaid. You have to make certain that you're doing it legally, and you're not violating any privacy rules. And even when you see the fixed operations expenses, those fixed operations, a lot of those still relate to the operations of the ambulance service, but those are fixed expenses that really don't vary at all, depending on how many ambulance calls you run. Legal, utilities, facilities, the billing program, those types of expenses are included in that line item. 29% of our budget does go out to that portion. You also see that, especially from the operations, most of the revenue goes out to salaries for paying our paramedics and EMTs. Our salaries are down a little bit, total spending, because of the periods that we've been down to ambulances. So we don't think that we're going to spend the entire budget this year on that. But the variable operations that relate directly to an ambulance call, we're literally in a conserve cash mode because we still don't know what would happen on November 5th regarding our request. And even for one example, medical supplies that comes out of that, we are doing just in time medical purchases, just a little over that, medical supply purchases. I hate to tell you, we might get caught with our pants down because it always something seems to happen. The hurricane that hit took out a company called Baxter, which is probably the nation's largest IV medical solution company in the entire country. We're expecting a shortage on IV solutions, which will impact our care. Training and other, we really cut that this year. Now we're doing on-duty training. There's still training, and we're doing the best we can with our training. However, our training does get interrupted all the time for ambulance calls. So it's been a fragmented training program, even though we're still trying to do our best at getting our medics trained. Debt service, that 102,956, that goes to paying off our building right behind AutoZone, close to Safeway. And grant specific expenditures, those are some of the grants that we've got this year. And the capital expense, one of the hardest decisions that we had to make this year is that we ordered an ambulance just before COVID back in 2019. Because of COVID, the ambulance got delayed significantly. We were told this year that we could get the ambulance. We thought a lot about picking up that ambulance. But even if we didn't, we decided to purchase that ambulance because number one, it could be the last one that we get. Our others are getting old and the miles are racking up on them. But even if something happens to one of our ambulances, it gets into an accident, you just can't drive down to a ambulance rental company, pick up another one. And if we were to order an ambulance today, the expected delivery date would be 3.5 years after we ordered it. So you can see that we were negative budgeting this year. So we budgeted for $180,000 loss. That $219,000, even as we're trying to spend conservatively as we can, we did get some good news today. And that a program called the Supplemental Reimbursement Program, which our agency was a leader on obtaining for EMS agencies in the state, is a supplemental payment for the Medicare offset or Medicaid offset. So we're anticipating about a $200,000 payment from them. Next slide, please. So I don't know if the video will show because this is my second to the last slide before I go to questions. Will the video run? Video won't run. Oh, there it is. So if you'll indulge me in just a minute, this is entitled What You See Versus What We See. This is not a real patient. This is not an actual call, but please go ahead. This gives you an idea of the complexity and the skill and the services that we provide in the back of an ambulance. We can't show it for you tonight, so I won't take up any of your time. Thank you very much for this opportunity to present to you. Please consider voting yes on 7A1 to help, to help fund and sustain your ambulance service. Are there any questions from the members of the council?
Council, any questions for Tim?
And if you don't, I'll try to listen. I'm hard of hearing as well.
It looks like every week.
Actually, yeah, Chief, I had a question for you. So you mentioned the district serves Teller, Park, and Douglas. Are you approaching those entities as well?
Yes, this sales tax will be in all three of those areas.
Okay, it's a district-wide.
It's a district-wide sales tax. So you got the sound, but we don't have the video. It is an impactful video. Oh, there it goes. There it started there. What you see.
You get the second line. Now this you need. Thank you, sir. Bougie is in. You're ready? So. Okay. This sound. Got our two holder. Let's run another set of vitals, please, and mark the time. 18 gauge. Ready. Stay in Margaret. Thank you. Okay. Going down. Sir. There.
Thank you very much. Amazing. When you think about all that, the ambulance, all the equipment, you're talking about $500,000 investment going down the road. And that doesn't even include the cost of the staff, the maintenance, or the fuel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. All right. I think that's all from the council. Anyone else have anything for Tim? Thank you, Tim. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And I'll stick around if you have any questions, whether it's from the members of the council, the staff, or members of the public. I'd be happy to answer your questions. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. You bet. All right. Item 3B is presentation on proclamation 123, dedicating state income tax revenue to fund housing projects initiative voted on by the voters and passed in 2022. Aaron.
Thank you. Eric, can you put my presentation up there? Thank you. All right, Kimberly was going to present tonight, but she's not feeling well, so I'm going to fill in for her the best that I can here. All right, tonight I have a presentation on Proposition 123. I'll give you a little bit of background information here. Several $100 million for affordable housing has become available as of 2023 due to the enactment of Proposition 123 by Colorado voters in 22. This funding is overseen by DOLA, and it can be used by nonprofits, community land trusts, private entities, and local governments. So organizations are only eligible for this funding if their project or program takes place in municipalities, counties, or tribes that have committed to increasing their affordable housing stock above a baseline amount. Jurisdictions that have accepted commitment filings, stakeholders should regularly visit the site to find explanatory articles and resources. So essentially, if we don't opt into this, then no organization or developer can get access to the funds, is what that's saying to us. All right, so a little bit of an overview of what Proposition 123 is. It's a program, a large dollar allocation from the state to incentivize affordable housing building within communities. And so what it does is it gives $70,000 per unit for developing affordable housing homes, and that's per home that they develop. There's also a possibility of bonus funding for state priorities. So essentially, if you opt into Proposition 123, it also opens up other funding that the developers can get to incentivize lowering the cost of building the homes. So up to 10% for projects addressing transit-oriented development, density, energy efficiency, mixed use, early childhood education, or inclusion of income-restricted ADUs as wealth building device. So it tries to limit those ADUs so that they can develop more housing there. And then up to 10% for projects utilizing modular construction, and then a max subsidy bonus of an additional 20% there. And so pre-development grants may be up to $25,000 for local government, small nonprofits, and housing authorities. So in addition to the $70,000, there's also other incentives that the developers can apply for, or the homeowners who are applying for the money can also apply for that grant in conjunction. So it can be quite a bit of money that can be combined there to lower the cost. In addition, up to 20% of the purchase price of down payment assistance may also be provided. For fiscal year 24 through 25, 60 million will be available for homeownership projects and programs, and the Department of Housing will initially prioritize 45 million for homeownership development and 15 million for programs throughout the fiscal year. And they note that this is 5 times more than the amount the Department of Housing invested in homeownership for the last fiscal year. All right. And so what is required if we want to opt into Proposition 123? Proposition 123 requires a local government to file a commitment specifying how it will increase a combination of its newly constructed affordable housing units and its existing units converted to affordable housing over its determined baseline number of affordable housing units by 3% each year. For the city, that would be 5 houses in 25 and 5 houses in 26. So it's not a huge number that we would be committing to. And the Department of Housing interprets this to mean that ultimately a demonstration of a 6% increase over the baseline at the end of the 2-year commitment. And I'll explain this a little bit more about what actually happens if we don't meet the commitment. Okay, so first of all, if we don't file a commitment by November 1st, then there's no funding eligible. Nobody can apply for the funding. If we don't decide to apply for it this year for whatever reason, we can apply for it one last time next year in November of 25. And essentially, whichever year you opt in for, you have to have a 3% commitment. That's how this works. Every year that you opt in, there's a 3% commitment that you're making to try to build additional affordable housing. All right, so what happens if you don't meet your commitment? If a local government is unable to meet its 6% total commitment by December 31st, 2026, then it and any development projects in its jurisdiction are ineligible to receive any funding established by Proposition 123 for calendar year 2027. The good news is that it may file a new commitment by November 1st, 2027 for a 2-year commitment to increase its affordable housing stock by 6% through December 2029. So essentially, if you don't meet your 6% commitment, nothing really happens except we can't apply again in November of 26 for 27. Any questions on that piece? Okay. All right, and so our baseline annual goal commitment numbers, the annual goal is 5. So in 25, we would be looking at a 5 unit allocation. And then for the 2 years, we'd be looking at 10 total between the 2 years. And I understand we do already have one project that is interested in doing this. So I think we would easily hit at least the first year's numbers without much lift there. All right. So before I move on, originally I thought that we needed a resolution because when they first launched this 2 years ago, you had to have a resolution from council saying that you wanted to move forward. All that we actually need is a commitment from council that you would like us to opt in for the funding, and then staff will determine how we can make that commitment to increase the affordable housing units. So that's really the first step. Once we get into 2027, the rules change a little bit and they require an expedited review process for affordable housing development. We don't have to do that until we get to that point. So council will have a decision whether we want to opt in 27 or not and commit to those additional requirements. I did give you all the information in the packet about what the expedited process is. I don't feel like we need to go through that at this moment because it doesn't really apply to this first tranche of funding that we have.
So, question, what is affordable housing? Like, are we talking like a percentage of the median house price in an area? Like, how is that determined?
So I actually took that information out of the presentation because the state is in the process of reviewing and updating what those numbers are. That number is a moving target that they continue to monitor. Right now, an affordable housing unit would need to be approximately under $325,000. And what's important to remember when we're talking about this, so if the sale of the home has to be 325, if you take that 325 and you add the developer incentives that they're getting of $70,000 per unit, plus the down payment assistance that they may be eligible for, I'm not going to use exact numbers, but the house could actually cost the developer much more to make than they're selling it for because of all those additional incentives. It's just that the home buyer can't have to pay more than that set amount. And our amount right now is about $326,000 approximately. Now there are income limits as well, depending on how many working individuals are in the home. It's also a fluctuating table. So it could be anywhere from 60,000 to 75,000, depending on how that looks. But the income levels, there are definitely set income thresholds that you can't make above.
Carol,
Well,
I see you're ready to talk.
another question I had, would this only be for home purchase or would it also cover rental property, a development for subsidized housing to rent?
It does also cover rentals. But again, the developer has to ensure that the rental prices are below that affordable housing threshold. And those thresholds are pretty, they are lower.
It does sound like we've got a project that could occur in 2025, but after 2025, I mean, how much property is available within the city limits that could be used for this type of project or this type of housing? Sounds like it's not really gonna cost us anything for 2025, but in the following years, I doubt we would be able to meet the requirement for five projects per year. Correct?
Correct. So this first phase that we'd be signing up for would just be 25 and 26 only. And then we could decide to reapply in 27 if we choose to.
Mhm.
And,
So-
and then we would have to consider, are there additional properties and land available
In
to?
2025, can you share with us what that project might be? Is it one that's already
I don't
begun
think it's-
the permit process or?
Not yet.
Okay, then we won't go- but we feel like we do have one available for 2025.
Yes.
And it's really not costing us anything as a city to opt in. Would the county be able to use our consensus for projects in the
They
county?
have to use their own.
Okay,
And even if the county opts in, it doesn't apply to the city because we have to choose to opt in.
okay, thank you.
Council, I'd just like to bring to your attention that we do have the developer. I see him in the audience. If you have questions on this project, Carol, that you mentioned for 25. Keith, would you mind? Just for you, those of you that may not know, this is Keith Meyer, and he is the developer that's wanting to.
Keith
Take a
Meyer,
project.
I'm the Executive Director of America West Housing Solutions, the 501c nonprofit. We own the 9% tax credit deal on Valley View and Highway 67, the apartments there. The project is the old Habitat for Humanity project. There's actually 12 more units to build. So we could meet both the years in this commitment cycle, just with that one project. And it does apply to mobile home parks and other things. There's a lot of other things that can apply to that could come into play in the future.
Questions for Keith?
Oh, I think I understood that it could not apply to mobile home or a tiny home.
They would have to own the land and the foundation. And
It's
it
the
would have to be
park.
over 700 square feet. So
Yeah.
it is,
It's
it's possible, but it's less.
Yeah, it's actually revitalizing existing RV parks, mobile home parks into affordable housing.
And you've already, the project already purchased the water taps for those,
No,
structures?
those are purchased when they come in for permit. So there's 12 more units to build, which then would pay permit cost and
okay,
tap fees. But they're construction ready, obviously, because we've already built 6
Mhm.
for Habitat, and then there's 12 units yet to build.
would these then fall under Habitat or, okay,
No, Habitat went out of business to close its doors. Elevation Land Trust bought the proper project. What they do is they actually hold the land.
Mhm.
So the cost of the house, no land costs or anything are included in the purchase price of the house.
okay,
So they're not only to get the money from Prop 123, they can also reduce the cost of the house by whatever the value of the land at.
Okay.
So I mean, those houses, I think we completed the last one, what, a year and a half ago or so, and I think it appraised for like 475, and we sold it for 3 something, the Habitat, you know, so this stuff really, it's the only way to make this work is to use state funds and these federal funds and stuff like that.
thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Keith Meyer? Yes,
When it comes to affordable housing, it really puts a bad taste in my mouth when people use that.
Yeah,
Because, yeah, it starts out as affordable, housing. But in a few years, the rent has gone up so much that the people can't afford it.
They-
Now, I know this for a fact because there's a gentleman that I used to work with that worked with the city that had to move from his affordable apartment into a fifth wheel.
so
And
these
my mom
projects,
herself was booted out of 2 affordable homes because they jacked the rents up so high.
yeah, and you can't do that with these projects. Even the Habitat project is deed restricted for 199 years. and based and tied to AMIs. So it's price, I mean, it's all tied to AMIs and those are deed restricted because they are for sale. The apartments, the rents on the apartments on 67 are restricted for 40 years. So the old models, yeah, at a certain time, everything could go market rate, but the new models don't allow that.
You know, what I understand and from what I see, because I just lived down the block
Right.
from the ones over there on Valley View, that when they were originally built, that it was mainly for teachers, our civic workers, you know, the teachers in the public that actually work hard, but they don't get paid much.
Mhm.
And that's what that complex was supposed to have been built for. But you know, if you go in and check, how many teachers live there? How many firemen live there? How many police? None, because they can't afford it. And that's supposed to be affordable housing.
Well,
So
those
I don't
apartments are
want that to
restricted.
keep happening.
Those apartments are restricted to 30 to 60% of the AMI. And they can't go above that. So the rents are based on 30 to, now AMIs have gone up, but not, the restriction is still in place as far as what those rents can be.
Well, if our
So-
teachers can't afford it, then somebody's doing their math wrong, in my opinion. That's all I got.
Thank you, Steve. Anything else, council? Thank you, Keith.
Thanks.
Council, I think the question this evening, Aaron, if I'm not mistaken, is shall we give consensus to the staff to opt in for 25-26?
Correct.
And we do have a project identified, and see how the project works. If we don't opt in, then the funds are not available and the projects won't happen. So I'm just looking to go around the room here and see what you all are thinking, please. Catherine's good. Terry, Jeff?
Sure.
My only question would be, does this conflict at all with our charter restriction on incentives? I think Aaron's checked into that.
Correct. The city would be offering no incentives on this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
For these first 2 years, I think, yeah, absolutely.
And I did ask that question quite a bit ago, and we even were offered by DOLA to have access to the Attorney General to weigh in on that charter amendment. So I think we're pretty confident
Yes.
in saying that.
It was, the expedited review process was our biggest concern, and we don't have to address that until 2027, so we're okay with that for now.
Okay.
Yep.
George
Good. Yeah, I'm good.
and Smitty,
I'll give it a second chance.
thank you. And I will too. So you have 7
Thank you, council.
Consensus.
We'll get on this.
from all 7 of us. Thank you so much, council. All right, next we have a third presentation that we've added. Special request, a presentation on Breast Cancer Awareness Month. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Chief Deisler has a short presentation for us this evening.
It's like Suzanne's laughing because she knows if I talk too long, I'm gonna get in trouble. First, thanks for allowing me to throw you a quick curveball. I always appreciate the time to get up here in front of you. Every one of you seated at the dais has received one of our new pink shoulder patches. Historically, you will know that Breast Cancer Awareness Month is October. Generally, it is recognized as such by a lot of local police departments, municipalities, sometimes firefighters, medics. Our staff was pretty adamant that they wanted to carry on the tradition of getting our new patches done in a breast cancer pink motif, which you will have in front of you. You will start to see some of our staff wearing those now on the road for the month of October. So if you see them, don't be alarmed by them. As soon as the uniform company gets my shirts in, I'll have them on too. But we just wanted to present each one of you with one of our patches just as a symbol of recognition and appreciation to our community, just to show support to those who have been affected by it. And if you haven't been affected by it, the statistics probably indicate that you know someone who has. And we just want to keep everybody in our thoughts. So very quickly. That's that. Thank you for your time. Let's
Thank
get
you,
back
Chief.
to it. But
Questions for the chief counsel? All right, thank you so much. All right. Item 4, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. Suzanne, do we have anything?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Item 5 is the consent calendar, which is item A, approval of the September 19th, 2024 regularly scheduled city council meeting minutes. Council would look for a motion.
I make a motion for the approval of the September 19th, 2024 regularly scheduled city council meeting minutes.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion, council? Suzanne?
Thank you. Case,
Yes.
Nakai,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Here,
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Smith.
yes,
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, council. That, we have now item 6, public comment on items not on the agenda. Do we have anyone anywhere?
We do. We do. Our
All right.
first speaker is Dana Duncan.
Welcome, Dana. If you'd give your full name and your city of residence, please.
My name is Dana Duncan, and I live just outside of city limits. I could walk home, but no, I can't call Woodland Park city my address. I am the developer of Stone Ridge Village, and I have a lengthy list of other projects that I've done for the past 30 years for the city of Woodland Park, including the Reserve, Evergreen Heights, and others. I appreciate having a few moments to kind of share my thoughts and maybe air a grievance. I'll try to be polite. I'll jump right to it. I believe myself to be a friend of the city, and there's quite a few things throughout the years I've actually done. The expansion of Meadowood Park happened from my land. The trailhead happened from me. I don't want to bring attention to these things. I just don't want to be kind of viewed by the people that I have not had a chance to really get to know and don't have a lengthy relationship with professionally. I don't want to be viewed as somebody that doesn't care for this town. I love this town. Went to 5th grade here and graduated high school. I'm still here. Good luck getting rid of me. But love for this town does kind of make me a little more passionate about certain things. Both my own back pocket and my concern for the city is of concern to me right now. The city is holding on to a great deal of bond money for the improvements, which the bond amounts are set actually quite high, much higher than they had been in the past. But be that as may, it was provided. The infrastructure is in, and after a month of trying to get the bond money back, I'm still frustrated and getting very little productive communication, if any at all. This lends itself to a larger issue of the city of Woodland Park has, and I don't blame somebody that's in this room. Thank goodness the person's gone, but really produced a culture of antagonism or just a real vile approach to executing his duties, and I'm glad he's gone. We had a meeting, and it was indicated that the culture should be changing as a result of this negative force seeking other opportunities. I'm still frustrated. I'm not getting communication. I'm told that if I don't sign a acceptance letter that contradicts the publicly debated and voted upon by city council, the subdivision development agreement, which was executed, I'm told I have to set aside provisions that benefit me in order to get my bonding back. I don't know if that's an agreement that I have to tear up in order to get my own money back. These are things that we have tried to communicate. I'm sorry to see Karen not here, because she is one of the people we've considered to be a primary contact. I have nothing against Karen. I think she's her heart's in the right place and she's quite intelligent. I'm just saying she's the one that's had the time dealing with this. I'd like to see things move forward. I'd like to see the city regain a reputation as a place that has no animosity to those who want to build or conduct business in this town. We know in the press, it suffered a bit, and I'd like to see it come back to kind of a friendly place for all. So yes, some of this affects my back pocket, but some of it is the reputation. I have a condo project that fortuitously would qualify for that, 48 condos. I won't build them until I know that I'm not going to get frustrated like this kind of stuff anymore. I'll sit on the land until I feel like it's a good culture to do business in. I can wait, but that is the best affordable, attainable housing that I can think of in this town. And it's sitting idle because it's unwise to do business right now. Prove me wrong. Should I ask, anybody has a question or?
Council,
just-
questions for Dana? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Appreciate you. Anyone else, Suze?
Yes, Jason Friesma.
Jason, if you just share your full name and your city of residence.
Hello, I'm Jason Friesma. I live in the city limits of Woodland Park. About a month ago, I came and spoke to City Council about Proposition 122, which is the Plant-Based Medicine Act. And I just wanted to give a quick update that the state has put forth kind of the rules for the Plant-Based Medicine Act. And what I really wanted to talk to the council about is to draw a distinction between plant-based medicine, which right now is psilocybin, magic mushrooms, if you will. And last month I talked about the efficacy with PTSD, but I want to draw a distinction between what is being done with the psilocybin versus what happened with marijuana. So the state is creating what is called healing centers, where people can come and partake in the medicine. This is not a product-based business. It is still illegal for anybody to leave a healing center with any of the plant-based medicine. So all of the effects of the psychedelic, the taking of it and the sitting as somebody is doing kind of a journey in the healing process, all of that occurs within the healing center. And then when the medicine is worn off, the people then exit the facility, and then no product ever exits the facility. As part of the law as well, there's a lot of security measures, including cameras and a security plan that are put in place. And then the law also includes that healing centers cannot be within 1,000 feet of schools or childcare. And that's a significant, I think, distinction. Like, marijuana obviously started as a medicinal thing, but it was always a product-based venture. And then obviously recreational happened, and that's obviously all product-based, where people go to these places and purchase the marijuana. And with the Plant-Based Medicine Act, all of this is a purchase of services, which is basically a sitting as somebody partakes in the medicine. And again, all of that medicine is very well regulated, lot numbers, inventory, and controlled, and none of it leaves with the participants. So in a lot of ways, these healing centers are much more like kind of outpatient surgery centers, where somebody would go in, receive a treatment, and then when they are ready and able to leave, they will just leave. It's not like somebody leaves a surgery center with ongoing propanolol or something like that knocks them out or whatever. So that's the distinction that I did want to make sure I made. These healing centers are coming online sometime in 2025. One can begin to apply to have a healing center. So far, I think from what the state said, I think 39 people have expressed interest across the state to create a healing center. And preferential attention is being paid to counties that are outside of the Denver metro area and Colorado and El Paso County, because I think they want to spread out the opportunities for providing these healing centers outside of those major areas. And that is it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be back.
Anyone else can, Suzanne?
That's it.
All right. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council? All right, thank you. Item 7 is unfinished business. We have none. Item 8 is ordinances on initial posting. We have none. And that takes us to item 9A, public hearings, approval of resolution number 926, series 2024, an extension of UPass, formerly Woodland Park, self-storage conditional use permit and site plan review. And the file number is provided. A request by M3XP2 LLC, the applicant, and 19350 Group LLC, the property owner, for a 2-year extension of the CUP and SPR approval for the 72,400 square foot storage and rental facility proposed at the 4.75 acre tract on Lot 1, Woodland Park Saddle Club, filing number 1, also known as 19350 East US Highway 24 in the service commercial zone. This is a QJ item and our presenter is CJ. I knew you'd be there.
Thanks. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. As the mayor stated, the site is 4.75 acres, lying west of Highway 24 and south of Trill Road in the southeastern portion of Woodland Park. The subject property is zoned service commercial, as you guys can see here on the slide. Access to the site is on the north side of the property via Trill Road. Woodland Village Mobile Home Park is located to the southeast, and the Woodland Park Saddle Club property is located to the north. The parcel bordering the subject property to the northeast is owned by the city of Woodland Park and is where one of the city's lift stations is located. This slide is the view from Highway 24, and the top photo is the view of the property traveling eastbound, and the bottom photo is the view traveling westbound on Highway 24. On July 19th of 2018, City Council approved the CUP and site plan to allow for a 72,400 square foot self-storage facility on the 4.75 acres. This slide is a screenshot of the approved site plan back from 2018. This slide here is the approved rendering also from 2018. And just some project history for you guys here. So since the original approval of the CUP, there has been several extensions of the entitlement and some activity revolving around the development. The next 2 slides outline the activity that has been taking place since July of 18. In February of 2019, the applicant did submit for a commercial ZDP and grading permit, which were never approved. In January of 2021, the applicant requested their first extension request along with a water line infrastructure permit, and that permit was also never approved. The applicant received approval of their first extension in March of 21 and again in July of 22 for their second extension request. On July 18th of this year, the applicant requested their third extension request. Extensions of conditional use permits are governed by section 18.57 within the Woodland Park Code, and they can be extended for 2 years at a time. If the application is approved, then the CUP SPR approvals will expire on July 19th of 2026. The application was referred to everyone listed here on this slide, and we have a few comments for you guys. First and foremost, the City of Woodland Park's Utilities Department stated that they do not support this request due to the inactivity of the application regarding the infrastructure and potential impacts of the development would have on the parcel to the south. The Public Works Department made 2 comments regarding necessary improvements to Fountain Creek and also CDOT access. Core Electric did comment, and they do approve of the extension request, but in the future building process, they will have to meet all of Core's rules and procedures. And lastly, CDOT submitted a comment that the applicant will need to provide an updated traffic study, drainage report, and that an access permit will be required. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on September 12 of this year, and the Planning Commission unanimously voted to recommend to City Council approval of the 2-year extension of Ute Pass, which is formerly known as Woodland Park Self-Storage, conditional use permit and site plan review, and the approving resolutions shall clearly state that the development is still subject to all the conditions and dimensional standards specified in the original approval. And lastly, we have staff findings, which is based off of the Planning Commission's recommendation. Staff recommends City Council approve resolution 926, series 2024, documenting the approval of the 2-year extension of Woodland Park self-storage conditional use permit and site plan. This concludes my presentation here tonight, Council. You can ask me any questions. I know we have a gamut of folks with the applicant group tonight, so, and I know they have a presentation for you as well.
Thank you, CJ.
Sure.
Council, do you have questions for staff? All right, would the applicant like to do a presentation for the council and the community?
Mark Weaver, Woodland Park, Colorado.
Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. It's actually exciting to be before you tonight as we discuss this CUP extension. Some things have begun to move and align so that this project can actually move forward. I know some of you have seen this project for years. Yes, we are fully aware of that. And we are telling you now that we've got 2 things that have changed. We have a developer that's come into the picture, and you'll hear from them in just a second. And the timing for this has lined up to move forward with the project next year. I just want you to know that this project is difficult. It's complicated. It's expensive. I won't bore you with all that, but it is a endeavor to get to tonight. There's been a lot of due diligence done. A lot of money has been spent. A lot of effort has come to this. So we're pleased to come to you tonight. We are asking if you will agree with staff recommendation, the Planning Commission's recommendation, and approve our CUP extension. I've got our civil engineer, Eric Smith, here, Antonio Lila with Uplift Group out of Colorado Springs. They're the new developer. And of course, Michael Harper and I are owners in the property. So do you have any questions for me, or do you want to hear the presentation?
We'll go to the presentation.
Okay.
Please. Thank you.
Great. So Tony, come on.
Well, good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Tony Olala with Uplift Development Group. I think CJ has a presentation he can pull up that my colleague presented at Planning Commission as well. As stated, we specialize in developing self-storage. You can go to the next slide. This is our day job. It's what we do week in and week out. We live in the construction and real estate world, and we've been pretty successful at it. You can go back one more real quick. Okay, yeah, you can go to the front page to see a pretty picture, at least. So yeah, we again, this is what we do. Our business is finding properties, working with municipalities, working with consultants and engineers to get a site entitled and designed appropriately, incorporating zoning codes, incorporating building codes, working with our sister general contracting company to ensure we're designing what is buildable, designing what is budget efficient, pulling together a project package, which then we can take to our capital partners and investors and several banks we have relationships with to pull together funding packages for projects like these. Go ahead, CJ, to the next slide. Just real quick about us. In the past almost decade, we've been very active in the development and self-storage industry. We've created a flagship brand. We branded our self-storage facilities as Blue Sky Self-Storage. We've completed 20 self-storage developments. We've acquired 56 self-storage facilities. We've sold 19 of them. We've done $403 million in deal volume. We've raised and deployed $236 million of equity, which speaks to our investors and capital partner being sufficient there. We completed a joint venture with National Storage Affiliates as a publicly traded REIT. And actually this year, the Blue Sky brand and that partnership were bought out by NSA Corporate, and that has since retired. But all of this activity, we've done self-storage development in 34 cities and 16 states across the country. So where we sit now, we privately own 18 facilities that we own and manage, and we are still actively developing 4+ that are under construction and development right now. So just real quick, you can go to the next slides here, CJ, the next one too, just kind of some of the end products of what we provide, unless these are all blank too. Okay. It's more pictures of completed facilities, but we're very familiar with the development process. We're very familiar with self-storage. We have a track record of being able to get projects done from design to incorporating municipal comments. The conditions CJ went through is nothing new to us. It doesn't scare us. Those are things we work through all the time. So coming in to get this CUP extension allows us to get to work, and we're confident we can figure out a way to get this built and operational. So yeah, there's a pretty picture of a project we did in Overland Park, Kansas, and Houston, Texas, and we build multi-story facilities, drive-up facilities. If you want to scroll through to 2 more, slide 9 there is a facility we did up in Windsor, north of here. That'll be similar to this one here in Woodland Park. So just a little bit about us and the group and what we do. So I'm here if you have any questions, and I can take it now, or I can sit down too. So thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
Yeah, just real quick, are you looking at building climate controlled or non-climate controlled?
It'd be a mixture of both.
Okay.
The elevation that we first saw several years ago is not similar to any that you've presented. The elevation that was in our package is much more sympathetic to our requirements for whatever it means. Mountain Western is that still the plan?
Yeah.
So those others that you showed were just examples of the type of storage facility.
Yeah, and when you say others, the pictures of the completed projects, those are projects in different areas that have different design codes, and that is what we work through, is any particular areas design codes and requirements, and we conform to what they are. We don't have like a public storage is orange doors, and you see that, you know, that's what it is.
Exactly.
We don't have a brand that is forced in like that. We simply accommodate the area. Because we agree fitting in and having a good looking professional business is helpful for our operation as well.
Thank you. Anyone else? Catherine?
So I wasn't gonna actually ask any questions, but I'm gonna ask. If I go back, CJ, if you pull up the drawing. The site plan, yeah, the site plan. Where it's got what looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 14 or 15 angled units at the top there. What are those?
That would be outdoor storage, boat and RV parking.
Okay, so as I recall, those are supposed to be contained, right?
Yeah, that's actually Eric Smith, Colorado Springs. That's actually indoor.
Okay, that's
storage.
that's still the plan, because that's how it was presented back in 2018 that's completely contained storage, right?
Correct, and we understand that outdoor storage is not allowed per code.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eric. Then that's the only question I had.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, sir. Council, any discussion before I open the public hearing?
Well, not discussion, but a question, I guess, is Kip still here? Kip's non-concurrence with the recommendation had to do with issues of the water transfer. Have those been addressed? CJ, can you answer that?
Yeah, I can answer that. So I can, let me just pull up the site plan again real quick, and then maybe I think this will be more helpful. So as far as the water comment from Kip so his comment was that they had not done anything to construct a water line. So the water line will actually have to go Can you guys see my mouse up
Yeah,
there
yeah.
on the top of the screen and bore under Highway 24? And connect to an existing line here. So they'll have to submit an infrastructure zoning development permit that will be worked through us and, you know, our on-call engineer and KIP. So, but no, that ZDP has not been approved and a new ZDP will have to be applied for by the applicant. And then his other comment was just regarding Woodland Village Mobile Home Park. As you guys may know, the planning department has received some inquiries in the past from development community. You know, kicking around the idea of redeveloping that. You know, for access reasons and fire and all that, we would have to add another access and the really points towards this property here. So that's what his comment was. So.
The comment about a new trip study being done, would that be a requirement of the ZDP? Or as part of the ZDP application?
Correct, yes, and the applicant would also have to submit that to CDOT as well for their
Okay.
access permit.
Mm.
So they'll have to get a new traffic impact study.
And there was a comment, I think, CJ, from CDOT that said
Yep.
the access to that property is on private road, right, on that troll road or whatever.
Troll.
Yeah, that is Trull Road there. We can just go back here. So this is Trull Road right here. So the green lines, you know, it's Teller County system. They're not exact where the property lines are, but you know, it gives you a good idea about where the property lines are. So the property to the north is the Saddle Club property, which I'm pretty sure the same group owns both. So, you know, as far as access goes, that would not be an issue. But there is a portion of that road that would go on the Saddle Club property. So just, you know, a simple easement would do the trick on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the red line comments from staff, renewal would need conditions that the developer shall improve Fountain Creek among the drainage per city of Woodland Park stormwater master plan, so on and so forth. Was this originally approved without consideration to the stormwater master plan? Is that why that red line comment's there?
Let me double check the ordinance. I can double check that. So I'm just looking at the conditions of approval from the original ordinance. So they did require a final drainage report. Let's see here, landscaping. So yeah, the original conditions of approval from 2018 did not.
Did not, so, okay, so we would need to account for that.
Yeah, that was the comment from the Public Works Department.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you do some a short version for dummies up here? What were you saying about access? It needs another access?
Sure. So, like I said in the past, so I just want to be clear, nothing is in process with the planning department right now regarding Woodland Village Mobile Home Park, which is this property to the south here. If that were to ever be redeveloped, I don't have a crystal ball. Like I said, nothing's in process right now. If that were to ever be redeveloped as far as, you know, say a multifamily residential, with the unit counts that we've heard kicked around in the past, another access would have to be granted. So one on either side of the property for, you know, emergency reasons and traffic reasons. So in the past, staff has seen, you know, just very brief initial proposals for access going through the subject property. But, you know, we've talked with the applicant group and that doesn't sound like it's heading anywhere. So they're comfortable moving forward with the application you guys have in front of you tonight. So. And Mark Weaver, you know, we chat very often in the planning department with him, so he can talk about that as well if you guys have any additional questions.
Mark, would you like to comment?
Yeah, CJ's right. We've had a lot of people look at the mobile home park, but nothing's in the works. There's nothing planned. It's selling a mobile home park and doing a change of use is very difficult to do in the state of Colorado now. So I don't think it's going to happen. But there's nothing in the works at all.
Well, and And the solution for that second access on that north end of that property would be solved with an easement granted by this project or this property owner to access that southern property where the mobile home park is.
At some point in the future, if it
Yeah.
comes up, yes,
That would be a solution.
it could
course, it would
be.
have to be
It could be a
negotiated.
solution also through the lift station property. That would
Certainly.
probably be easier to do.
Certainly.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mark, don't go anywhere. I have another
Yep.
question.
Yeah, Carol.
The grading plan, in the red line document, it does talk about a need to, improve, Fountain Creek armoring and drainage. What is the plan for that?
Eric, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, Eric Smith, once again. So from the standpoint, the project does not involve Fountain Creek. So all of the development is outside of Fountain Creek. Fountain Creek, as it relates to the platting that was done, is a separate tract. There are no planned improvements for Fountain Creek. This project will, stormwater wise, will meet all of the city's requirements for development, treating stormwater from development. So there are no intended creek improvements, and this project is not going to be, it will be detaining water to a pre-development standard and then releasing it at pre-development rates. So it will not be adding additional stormwater to the creek. So there are not creek improvements that are needed.
Okay, thanks, Eric. But why was that included then in the red line?
That was included within the red line, just because with every project we get in, as far as the planning department is concerned, we send it out to all of our referral agencies, which includes our utilities, public works, fire, police, Corps, like, you know, you guys are all familiar with that. And that's just the comment that the public works director at the time, submitted, so.
And remind me, you did not make that a requirement of the recommendation to
Correct.
extend? Okay, thank you.
Anything else, council? Before I open the public hearing. All right. I will now open the public comment portion of this public hearing. If there's anyone in the audience or online that would like to address the council regarding this item.
I have no one signed up and nobody online.
Okay, I see no one running towards the podium. So I will close the public comment portion of the public hearing and look to council for further discussion or a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Since I've been around so long, I move then to accept the recommendation from staff to approve the extension. And where should I read that?
It's resolution.
926.
Okay, to approve resolution 926, documenting the approval of a 2-year extension of Woodland Park self-storage conditional use permit and site plan.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Someone? George? All right. Any further comments, council? Suzanne?
Thank you. Nakai,
Yes.
Baldwin, Yes.
Gear,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Smith,
yeah, yes.
Case.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, council.
Madam
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question though for staff. Why would this not be an administrative extension? Can you explain if we're working toward a policy that would allow the planning department to approve an extension?
So I believe what was just discussed is that the first one would be administrative and then the second one would come back to council. So I think any subsequent after the second one would
Has to
always
come
come back to council. That's the
Okay.
understanding from my notes from the last meeting.
Okay.
Now that could change because I don't think it's official, but I believe that's the direction they're going. But I would assume that a third renewal would always come back because that's
Okay.
not very often.
I don't know. It
Anything
seems
else?
like it.
It seems like
All
it's for
That takes us to item 10, new business. We have none, and then we go to reports. Okay, then where do I start? Item 1 is, I'm looking for the council to give some consensus or not, for a couple of items that are outstanding. The first one is a panhandling and camping ordinance. to address how how this council in our city would like to, for the lack of a better word, regulate or prohibit or allow for, or in an ordinance form, with regards to panhandling and camping in our community.
Do we already have an ordinance, a loitering ordinance? Loitering,
We do have a camping ordinance.
loitering.
I'm not,
I don't-
I'm gonna have to research if we have a
Okay.
loitering ordinance.
Because
Ordinance.
to me, loitering covers all of it. It covers sleeping on the sidewalk, sleeping on the bench outside of Zeeb's or Zeb's and
What?
it-
What's happening?
when you had a person that was sitting in, loitering or
Okay.
like, there's a new person now at City Market standing there asking for money. So it seems like it would cover everything and have to give people the chance to, or our police department to ask people to move along.
I'm not gonna answer for you, but I know that this panhandling camping ordinance is with relation to public property. So with that, I'll
Hmm,
look to you.
that's interesting.
Well, that was the other thing that came up for me also is I noticed that Walmart now has signs, big, oh, they have, I just noticed them. Where they're saying you can't solicit
That was
there.
part of their.
And so those are the
Approval.
private places, so like Safeway, City Market, right?
Mhm.
They would need to have their own
Mhm.
signs, because it's private, that's private property.
Correct.
Right, okay, thanks.
So just looking for consensus to give the staff direction to move forward in researching that and providing recommendations to the council
So,
for
you-
us to consider.
so you're saying it would be just for basically the parks, would be for city property, not public, not private property. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is that what is that what you're thinking, Aaron, or?
That is, yeah.
And I don't have a problem with that. It's not private, so I don't want to step on private properties.
Thank you. Terry, would you give consensus for the research? Thank you. Jeff,
Yes.
Carol?
Yes, we were just discussing now, I think the sidewalk in front of the main strip is actually CDOT. Would this also include CDOT property? Yeah, yeah. Yes,
Hey, George
Sure.
and Smitty.
Sure.
Okay, and I'll also give my consensus, staff.
Can we also look up that, is panhandling a business operating without a license?
Well, I'm not sure.
Sales tax.
I think collection might be an issue, but. And the other item is in reference to something we've already heard tonight. And that is to give consensus for the staff and the attorney to prepare, bring a moratorium on applications and licensing of natural medicine. Examples is the psilocybin mushrooms. And that would just be a moratorium to provide time for legal counsel to draft options for the council's consideration on which direction we wanted to move.
I don't think we need a moratorium. I mean, this isn't gonna happen until 2025 anyways, even if we
Right.
wanted to go in that direction. So I don't see the need for a moratorium.
I would agree as well, and I think the application process is probably a little long. It's not, and it's highly regulated. It's not like you're gonna get a healing center. I think that's what they're called. You're not gonna get a healing center show up, tomorrow.
2025 is 2 months away.
Sure, but
But even if they apply January 1, it's still an elongated
But if they
process.
apply January 1 and this council and this community decides they don't want it, we can't say no. So the opportunity is gone. So I will give my consensus for what was presented. Yes. For that purpose of giving legal counsel the opportunity to research and draft options for us to consider.
well, how long is the moratorium?
6 months?
We can draft, an amount and then you all can approve, decide to, amend the amount, whichever way you want.
And we can end the moratorium at any time. in that.
Yeah, and the purpose of it would be for me to present to you the law, the regulations, what you can and can't do, the manner in which you can regulate, what's available to you. And that would let me, I don't have a presentation tonight, it wasn't a
Sure.
decision like that, but it allows me to give you a really good understanding and background on what we can do.
And to be clear, just based on the comment, we can remove the moratorium at any time.
Yes.
Okay.
A moratorium, though, would not prohibit an applicant from beginning a process to apply for whatever it would require to establish one of these healing centers, would it?
What we would do the moratorium for, from my understanding, at least so far, and again, I would draft it and I would work at it if I have authorization to do so. But it would be just stopping local applications licensures and allow us to determine, is there a way that the city may want to put in certain regulations, you know, within the parameters provided by the legislature and also the regulatory agency that just issued regulations recently.
Okay.
It's just really to give you all a background, and let us. kind of work
Well,
from that
and
point.
in historical context, we did the same thing when we considered medical marijuana.
Yes, Counselor, that's exactly right. It's similar to that, and it's just to let everybody get their feet under them and be informed moving forward.
Then we can have informed decisions.
Okay.
Catherine? Give consensus. Thank you. Harry? Would you like me to come back to you? Yes, please. Jeff?
I'll give consensus.
Thank you.
Yes.
George?
What's going on with Teller County? What are they doing? Do you know?
I do not,
Okay.
but we can find out in this process as well.
I'll
We
find
can
out.
inquire of other cities as well and see what others are doing.
Okay.
It's always good to know what.
And that would be part of what I would provide you all as some options that have already been enacted, or to give you samples of what, and it will be various sizes because it's a newer thing. So with that caveat, I can provide you, I know at least 3 municipalities so far that I will have some ability to show you options. Again, I don't want to get into all of it.
Well, again, I think we need to set a date certain for the moratorium. We
Sure.
can't just. Is that part of our consensus
Well-
process?
I think,
Why don't we, how about, may I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Is that when she brings her research and information back, be prepared with a moratorium for the council to approve that evening? Or not?
Or we could do.
All right, and then we can move forward with
Or we could do,
moratorium
Moratorium.
tonight.
well, I could draft it and then next council meeting. I think we could.
Well, I mean, you could draft the ordinance and then we could set the length of the moratorium, provided we approve it.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't.
moratorium needs to be sooner than later.
Right.
And then that gives us that little time frame with which to do the research, the consideration, and then
Correct.
ending
Yes,
up
and
with an
the-
ordinance.
So you're asking us for 2 decisions, 1, a moratorium. And then 2, a date or how long we want that moratorium to be. The result of the moratorium will give our attorneys the opportunity to provide us the research. So you're asking us for a consensus on having her draft an ordinance for the moratorium itself. And I think it's prudent for us to say, let's make it 6 months.
And I would agree with that.
And just a cautionary tale, sort of, these facilities, these healing centers are set up, they're like medical offices. They're not like recreational, like Maggie's down in, so. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I would agree. I don't like them being called healing centers, and I think it kind of throws a different
Different connotation,
context,
yeah.
or connotation around it, but yeah, I'm okay for us to have some time to absorb this and figure out how to move forward.
Steve,
I would like to see the research.
thank you. And I would too. So a moratorium for 6 months for us to consider.
yes, I will have that drafted, and for the next agenda, I'll have first reading, and then I can begin research once that's passed.
Thank you, council. Sure.
I'm Steve Lay, I'm from Woodland Park. Is that a moratorium 6 months from now?
It'll be 6 months from the time that the moratorium is passed or not by the council.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it is. It's confusing, but I think it's well worth our time. And I do thank Jason for coming up and making us aware, for one, because I think that probably would have come into effect and we would have had no idea. I mean, we've been reading everything from CML, of course, but there's been so much that's come out this year. It's been inundating.
It just gives us an opportunity to understand the law before we make decisions. It's an informed decision, so.
And
Thank
again,
you.
yeah, and again, the research could come back in January and we could be happy with it and we could pull the moratorium at that point. So, yeah.
What research are you talking about? You mean just the
What
investigation?
research she does and we write an ordinance that we pass and then we can lift the moratorium.
Yeah,
So
I would just want to, kind of point out some of Jason's comment. This is a highly regulated thing. This is not, you're not leaving with product. This is a service.
Yes. Thank you, council. All right. Mayor's report. Community events, October 3rd through October 17th. Monday, October 7th at City Hall Council Chambers from 5 to 7. The Greater Woodland Park Chamber of Commerce will be hosting the Candidates Forum for the upcoming general election for federal, state, and local candidates. Wednesday, October 9th at the UPass Cultural Center, they're hosting a free community concert featuring Lisa McCall. Doors open at 5:30 p.m. and the concert starts at 6. Monday, October 14th at 2 p.m. is a very important event. It's the Avenger Open Space ribbon cutting. The community is invited to share in the celebration located at the end of King's Crown, where that little tiny parking lot is. So we hope to see the community there. It'll be really exciting to kick that off. That's all I have, Catherine.
Mayor, I had a
Yes.
question before, sorry, if you don't mind. So can they park on the street? Because there seems to be room there on top of King's Crown.
You can park legally on the
Yeah,
street and
okay.
then around the corner at
Is
the
another
Sun
parking-
Valley
Yep,
and King's Crown is another parking area.
yeah. So there's plenty of parking up there. I just don't want to scare people off.
But carpooling is encouraged.
Sure. Or walking.
Thank you. Or walking,
You can do.
bicycling, motorcycling. Anyway, Catherine,
I have nothing. Thank you.
thank you. Terry,
I have nothing either.
thank you. Jeff?
First thing, just a reminder that as of 2 o'clock this afternoon, Teller County has been placed in a stage 1 fire ban. So I just want everyone to be clear and aware of that. And unfortunately, there isn't a lot of precipitation in the long term, so I just encourage the community to be very vigilant with any fire use that they may have. Separate from that, Parks and Rec, a free community concert with Lisa McCall will be at the UPass Cultural Center Wednesday, October 9th from 6 to 8. Hallowpalooza is coming. The events include Trick or Treat in Memorial Park on Friday, October 25th from 3:30 to 5. A costume cornhole tournament at UPass Cultural Center will be Friday, October 25th. Tournament starts at 6 p.m. and the costume contest is at 7. And lastly, for Hallowpalooza, Pumpkin Dive at Woodland Aquatic Center will be Saturday, October 26th from 6 to 8 p.m. And that is it from me.
Oh, you're like the Hallowpalooza king there. Got them all going.
Nothing. I have nothing.
Thank you, Carol.
No, unfortunately, I was unable to attend the DDA this week, so I'll defer to Aaron again. But thank you. Steve.
Steve?
With the HPC, the Roberts House, they've acquired or sent in for grants to start bringing that up. And first off, we get the what is that word when they're yanking out the asbestos? Abatement. So that's going to be the first step on that, and things are going pretty well with it this year. You know, with the drive of actually doing something with it that's good for the city.
Excellent. Thank you. Anything else?
Time to close.
Okay, Not yet. City Attorney,
We don't want to hear from him.
I have no reports.
thank you. City Manager.
All right, so the DDA meeting this past week was pretty lively. They discussed several pretty big items. The first one, Bergstrom Park, the DDA did agree to do a match of 50% of the cost of using a consultant for the Bergstrom Park master plan. So we will be looking at that and getting that process started soon. We're very excited for them to partner with us on that one. They also had a conversation about condemnation of a building on Main Street. So they have asked, they voted in support of moving forward with that. So at a staff level, we will start to do some research on that with our attorneys and figure out what that process looks like and how we can move forward with that or not. But we will get some information on that piece. And then they also discussed micro grants for the downtown corridor. They discussed doing a potential $5,000 grants for each business to do outside facade and painting. They haven't set the exact parameters and how it would operate, but exciting things that they were discussing. So it was a very good meeting. A lot of good discussion. So that's what's going on there. As far as our street projects, Highway 67 is mostly completed. They just have some work to do on the sides of the road. And then Lake and Dual are still going strong. Staff is working very hard on those. It looks like Lake is going to be delayed another 2 weeks, but we are working as hard as we can to get that done. And that's
Great.
all I have for you. Did you?
Aaron,
Yes,
Mayor, do
please.
you mind? Aaron, I had a follow-up question I forgot to ask you on Monday. In terms of the noise ordinance, well, no, let's talk about the shooting range under the
Okay.
police station. I know there are some citizens who've complained about the noise during the middle of the day. I know the chief has done everything he can to box that in. But are we investigating, are we looking into ways to mitigate that noise?
We are doing a review, but as far as I know, I've only heard of one complaint. Have we heard of additional ones coming forward?
No,
Okay,
just,
good.
but multiple of that.
Gotcha. We will. We will continue to look into that.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you. Is that everything?
that's everything I have.
All right. We will be adjourning into executive session now, and just for the public's knowledge, we will not be coming back here to adjourn the meeting. So we will not be back this evening. So Catherine,
So, yes.
give me a motion.
I would like to make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to CRS section 24-6 -4024E to determine positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing a strategy for negotiations and instructing negotiators, requiring land acquisition for the purposes of securing water resources.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Jeff, thank you. Suzanne?
Baldwin? Yes.
I'm sorry, Gear,
Yes.
Harvey? Yes. Jones?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Case?
Yes.
Nakai?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll go upstairs, yes.